Ever get the feeling that someone, somewhere, is pulling all the strings? Like, we're all just watching the gears turn in some elaborate political machine.
I know what you mean.
Well, that's kind of the story of the North Carolina Republican Party. For years, they've run the show, but now they're facing a real wild card, and this New York Times piece with Robinson candidacy, North Carolina Republicans fear damage to years of gains, gets into the nitty-gritty of it all. We're talking calculated moves versus, well, chaos. Ready to dive in.
Absolutely. It's like watching a perfectly planned chess game and suddenly someone just throws the board in the air.
Exactly. So how did we even get here? This NC GOP machine, it didn't just appear overnight, right?
Right. It was strategic, methodical even. Take gerrymandering, for instance. They mastered it. Imagine drawing up districts, slicing and dicing the map, so even if the voters are split, they still get the lion's share of power.
Sneaky.
But effective.
Very effective. And then there's the courts. They played the long game, appointing conservative judge after conservative judge.
And that's huge GE, because those judges, they're the ones making the calls on laws, on policies, on the whole shebang.
Exactly. So they cemented their control bit by bit, and the results speak for themselves. Look at the recent abortion ban. It's a clear example of how they turned political power into, well, actual change.
A well-oiled machine, at least until Mark Robinson came along.
Now, there's a curveball if I ever saw one. Furniture maker one day, lieutenant governor the next.
Talk about a plot twist. And even before all this recent stuff, Robinson was already ruffling feathers. He's just not cut from the same cloth as those buttoned-up NCGOP folks.
All right, so we've got a party known for planning every single move. And then there's Robinson, who seems to thrive on, well, unpredictability. What happens when those two worlds collide? That's what we're going to get into next. All right, so we were talking about Robinson ruffling feathers. Well, CNN dug up some old online posts, and let's just say they're not pretty.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly. The language, the sentiment, it's all pretty extreme.
Definitely not your typical political disagreement.
Right, this is the kind of stuff that makes even people in your own party, like, really uncomfortable.
And Robinson's response, he's denying it all, claims it wasn't even him, even blamed AI at one point.
I mean, it's a wild story, but for the NCGOP, the damage might already be done.
Because this isn't just about one guy's career anymore.
Not at all. We're talking about North Carolina, 16 electoral votes, a major swing state. If Robinson crashes and burns, it could drag down the whole Republican ticket.
And then those down-ballot races, the ones that often decide who controls state legislatures and all that, those are at risk too.
Exactly. The New York Times article, they really hammered that point. The GOP, they've got this supermajority in the legislature right now, basically can do whatever they want.
Right, no need to compromise or anything.
But if they lose that supermajority because voters are turned off by Robinson, well, it changes everything. All those carefully laid plans out the window.
It's kind of poetic, isn't it? This party, so focused on control, on image, now facing a crisis because of a guy who just, well, says whatever comes to mind.
And it's not just him. Remember Michelle Morrow running for superintendent of schools?
Oh, yeah, the one who made that really, really questionable comment about Obama.
Yep, that's her. It's a pattern now.
Like the NCGOP traded in their carefully crafted playbook for, like, a bullhorn. And they might not like where it leads them. So we're seeing these, let's call them unconventional candidates popping up in the NCGOP. But is this really new for them, or is there, like, a historical precedent for this?
Oh, there absolutely is. The New York Times piece, they brought up Jesse Helms, former senator from North Carolina. Talk about a polarizing figure.
Helms, ringing a bell. But remind us why he was such a big deal.
Well, he was conservative, no doubt, but it was more than that. He was known for just, like, really pushing the envelope, saying things that made people squirm.
And he got away with it.
For the most part, yeah. He knew how to tap into certain anxieties, certain issues, and it energized his base. Didn't matter if moderates hated it.
So the article's saying Robinson's kind of following that playbook, and some Republicans are not thrilled about it.
Yeah, they're worried. Their article even quotes Pat McCrory, former GOP governor. He called Robinson dangerous, straight up.
Wow. So it's like they built this machine focused on strategy, on winning, and now they might have created something they can't control.
That's the fear. And it makes you wonder, is this just North Carolina, or is it a sign of where the whole Republican Party is headed?
Because what's the saying? As goes North Carolina, so goes the nation. Or something like that.
Something like that. But the article made a good point. Even if Robinson totally implodes, he might have shown us the future of the GOP. Less about policy, more about, well, stirring the pot.
So even if they dodge a bullet this time, the NCGOP can't just go back to business as usual.
Right. Their old tricks, the careful messaging, the behind-the-scenes deals, that might not work on voters anymore. They want someone who's loud, who's angry, even if it means things get messy.
It's fascinating, really. The party of order, now grappling with chaos of their own making, makes you think about power, but how it's gained, how it's lost. What happens when a party's image doesn't match what the voters want?
And that's why we do this deep dive, right? It's not just about one state, one election. It's about those bigger questions, the ones that keep you up at night.
Exactly. So next time you hear about North Carolina, remember, it's not just about barbecue and beaches. It's a front row seat to the future of American politics, messy and unpredictable as it may be. Thanks for diving in with us today.